So one of the big rules that I have on the YouTube channel is to not include and screenshot material from The Athletic. Because it's paid for content, I don't really feel comfortable reading the article myself, screenshotting what is available there, and then putting it on a YouTube video for the public to see. However, the caveat to this is that sometimes we have people that do that anyway. We have people that post Athletic excerpts on Twitter or on Reddit, and when it's in this capacity, I have the comfort to go out there and say, okay, well, this person posted it on Reddit and it's now available for everybody to see. Sure, it's not the right way for things to go out there and get published, but somebody else did it. It's there. Like, I don't really have the right to say that this is unavailable content anymore because somebody without a paywall can go out there and just read it. It's on Reddit. And so that's normally the excuse that I like to use when we do inevitably include Athletic material once in a while. It's always because somebody else posted it. And that's what I wanted to do in this video in particular, because what we're doing is we're revisiting a conversation that has sort of taken over the Montreal Canadiens fan base in a really enthusiastic way. You've got a lot of fans saying they want this guy. Some people are on the more skeptical side. But when it comes to everybody that's in the media making their articles or radio hits or TV hits about this, they all seem to lie more so on the side of caution, much to the dismay of the fans. We're talking once again about the best Russian goal-scoring prospect since Alex Ovechkin, Matvei Michkov. And this is like the third time we have made a video talking about Michkov and the Canadiens specifically. We had already talked about Kent Hughes and his entire perspective and analysis done on the situation and everything. But when it comes to the conversations amongst Canadiens fans, they're all saying a lot of similar things. Some are saying, hey, wait a minute, Michkov should be worth the risk. The Canadiens should take him. If he's there at 5, it's a no-brainer. Then you have all the analysts saying, hey, this guy might still be available at the 8th, 9th, or 10th overall spot, meaning that the Canadiens and a bunch of other teams have the chance to pass on him too. Well, why is that? We had already talked about the contract, we had talked about the uncertainty, but what we didn't talk about were the actual skills of Michkov himself. This is why we're going over onto a post made on the Canadian subreddit that cites an article written by Corey Pronman and Scott Wheeler on The Athletic, NHL Draft 2023. Pronman and Wheeler answer the biggest questions facing each of the NHL teams. The link is going to be in the description if you want to go ahead and read the entire article, and of course if you do have The Athletic, but the Canadiens' little conversation that's included in the piece was indeed posted onto the Habs subreddit by Mr. Redmo. It was posted in full, and because this is there, I mean, everybody on the Canadian sub is reading it. They're all talking about it in the comments section, so let's go out there and have our little 2 cents thrown in there as well. But of course, in order to do that, we have to acknowledge what the post says. Here is what Pronman and Wheeler writes about the Canadiens and what their biggest question is at this year's draft. Assuming Michkov is there at number 5, we all know about his potential. But what are some of the reasons why the Canadiens could be tempted to pass on him, aside from his KHL contract and passport? Are there elements of his game that you think teams are concerned about? Asked by Arpon Basu. Corey Pronman says this: Michkov is listed at 5'10", but some scouts feel he's closer to 5'9". He's an elusive skater, but has average foot speed and is a one-way winger. I think he could be a star, but I'll admit if he did become that, he would be a unique star. There aren't many impact players in the NHL in my lifetime who look and play like him, and there's a chance his game won't translate to a high degree in the NHL. There's nobody in the NHL who looks like Michkov, but there are 25 Reinbachers. And essentially what Pronman is insinuating here is because Michkov is such a unique combination of skills, the shot, the playmaking, the offensive potency, but the one-way aspect of his defensive game, the foot speed not really being up to snuff, how he's not really the biggest guy out there. Pronman is essentially saying that because he has all these attributes to his game, it would be a very unique case if he were to become a star, and we haven't seen anybody really display these combinations of traits in the past. Now, Pronman is saying that because there are other guys that look and play like Reinbacher, he has a more projectable game, therefore he's got a more willing sort of profile that people will look at and say, yeah, I'm more certain in that guy. I'm certain that he has a higher potential of being an NHL player versus Michkov. And so Pronman's argument is essentially saying because Michkov is so unique, it's difficult to really project what type of a player he's going to be and the magnitude as to how good he's going to be too. I'm not going to go out there and say I necessarily agree or disagree with him, but I think this sort of goes against the philosophy of saying, hey, just take the best player available. Like, talk about the guys who have potential, what their realistic outcomes are, and say, okay, what's Michkov's realistic ceiling? Like, if this guy becomes a 100-point scorer, a 60-goal scorer, I would not be surprised. If David Reinbacher's ceiling is somewhere in that territory where you could say it's better or more valuable than what Michkov's ceiling is, then okay, make your argument, try to convince me you're free to have him over Michkov on your list. But essentially, Pronman is saying that because there's some uncertainty there, it may not be worth the risk at 5. This is what Scott Wheeler goes out there and says. I would order the reasons for skepticism as follows. Number 1, Michkov's play and competitiveness off the puck. Number 2, his size and position combo, though he is more physically advanced than I think he gets credit for. Number 3, his skating, which is also stronger, I think, than it usually gets credit for. And number 4, the fact that Michkov has some tendencies and habits that Wheeler would like to see him slowly work away from in terms of some of the ways he uses his line mates as well. I think ultimately the game-breaking, first-line skill level and historic production went out though. There may not be any players like Michkov in the NHL in terms of makeup, but there aren't many playing in the NHL who had a statistical profile like his either, and you can find ones who did with a quick scroll through the league's top scorers. And so, Wheeler is essentially saying that there are other things too, pretty much noting the habits, the tendencies, skating, size, and his competitiveness, but they're all kind of concluding at the end of the day that because he has such a unique profile of points, just the magnitude of skill and how we had seen this guy score over and over again, it's very difficult to find players that look like him, but the ones that do are the ones that are at the top of the NHL in points. The ones who do have statistical comparisons to Michkov are the ones that are like some of the best Russian players ever. The Ovis, the Kucherovs, the Kaprizovs, and all the Ovs, they're all sort of there. And so, for Matvei Michkov, this is definitely a polarizing prospect, but it's one where the Canadiens at number 5 have a great chance to take if all the draft projections go the way they do. Or how they're expected to go, at the very least. There still remains a world, in my opinion, where Michkov goes, let's say, number 3 to Columbus, and they take him because they think he's the best player available after Fantilli, and Carlsson ends up slipping number 4 or whatever. Who knows where Will Smith is going to go? How much of these guys are going to drop? How much of these guys are going to fall? It all really depends on who you ask, but either way, I want to hear your opinions in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on all of these ideas here that Michkov has a few distinguishable traits in his game that will cause him to drop? Aside from the contract status, the lack of control, the political and economical state of the world, all that stuff that we have been talking about for months, aside from these, there are some other factors in his game that might hold him back from being drafted right away, and I want you to tell me all your thoughts in the comment section below, how these affect your perceptions in regards to the Canadiens and their 5th overall pick. Do you still think he is the right guy if you did, or are you leaning more so on the side of caution? Hey, I want Will Smith instead. That guy's going to be an NCAA beast. He's got control in North America. There's no war on Ukraine that's going to be influencing whether or not he's going to be able to come over soon. There's no contract that he's committed to with SKA St. Petersburg. It's different. But I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below how these ideas affect your assessment. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.